Chapter 6, Lesson 6, Solving Inequalities by Adding or Subtracting. Does anybody know what an inequality is? Anybody heard of the word before? No? I bet you've seen it before. You just don't know what it's called. Ready? You're not ready yet? You're yakking. Solving inequalities by adding or subtracting. So it's going to be one-step stuff. Remember how before we did like a plus 3 equals 9? Remember that? It's going to be a lot like that today, okay? Not much two-step stuff. We'll get into that later. So small things today. Small and simple. Make sure you take good notes though, because it's really important to do that, okay? Seen these signs before? Okay, these are called inequality signs. It's something you maybe did not know before. You just knew they were greater than or less than or whatever. These are maybe new to you. These two. That's okay. We'll talk about them in a second. So what I want you to do is I need you to write down the inequality vocab, and then I want you to make sure you get these written down. Okay? Even the two you don't know, you need to know those, okay? You learned those before? Could be. Just make sure you get them written down, because you're going to want them. Can I move it up? Let me know when I can move it up for you. Know that too. I have a few different things that mean these signs. You're going to want to know that too. That greater than can also mean more than, less than, fewer than, so make sure you get all those written down because you're going to want those. You know that one, right? You know that one. I'll explain these. Yeah, but sometimes they're going to give you like a story problem, and they're going to say 4 is more than X. So then you have to know, okay, more than, that's that sign. Okay, so sometimes they're going to give it to you in a word problem. You have to know what sign it is, and that's why I gave you both of those, so you know what sign that would be if you're doing that. All right, I'm going to talk about these two down here. Greater than, okay, less than. You guys are familiar with those, right? Familiar with those? These maybe you're not so much familiar with. This means greater than or equal to. Okay, so that can have two things. So if I have this, 5 is 3 is greater than or equal to 3. Is this true? Yeah, so that's true. Even though it's 3 greater than, no, but is it equal to? Yes. Yes. Can I also have just the equal sign in there? Sure. What about this? Can I have 4 is less than or equal to 4? Does that make sense? It's not maybe less than, but is it equal to? Yes. Okay, so that's what this line means on the bottom. It means or equal to. So careful when you see that. All right, we might do a little bit of these today. Most likely we'll be focused on those two probably. Okay. Any questions on this stuff? You guys remember this a little bit from last year? Okay. So this is what we're going to be given today. This is called an inequality. Does it look like kind of what we've been doing though? What's the only difference? That sign in there, right? Usually we had an equal sign. So x plus 3 is greater than 10. So write this in your notebook. Get an example. So my job is to find out what x is. Guess what? It's exactly how you would solve an equation like normal. Okay? So instead of having an equal sign there, you just have that sign, and guess what? It's still like your balance. Okay, there's your middle, there's your two sides of your balance. So just because that's a different sign, it's still considered like an equal sign. Oh, there could be tons of different numbers. Okay, so let's solve it, shall we? Let's solve it. So what would I do to get x by itself on that side? What do I got to do to that 3? Yep, we're going to subtract it, just like what we did when we solved equations. It's the exact same thing. Now, if I did on that side, what do I got to do to the other side? Same thing. So this is what I have left. X is greater than 7. I have to use my sign, don't use an equal sign. Now, what does this mean? If x is greater than 7, what does this mean? Yeah. I could have 8, 9, 10. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Everything above that can make that true. Because if I say 8 plus 3 is greater than 10, is that true? What's 8 plus 3? It's 11. Yes, you're right. Yes, you're right. Everything on this side has to be bigger than 10. So does 8 work? Yep. Does 9 work? Yep. Does 10 work? Yep. Does 11 work? Sure. Another vocab term I have for you is this, just because we talked about that, is solution set. Okay. Another term is solution set, and this is all the possible answers. And in this case, there's a lot of answers. Every number greater than 7 will make that true. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All the way up to a bazillion. Okay. So your stuff today isn't going to have one answer. It could have many, many answers. That's well, you for your answer you'll have this. That'll be your answer. Okay. But that'll be your answer. Yep, but what's greater than 7? Well, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So x is greater than 7 will be your true answer. But then I'd say, well, what's the solution set? Well, it's anything greater than 7. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 will make that true. Okay? Yep. Then there's another step to this, and it's called graphing inequalities. So I'm going to show you how to graph this. Let's see. Let's make sure I don't have... What? Sorry. This. My bad. Good? All right, let's solve a few more, and then I'll show you how to graph them. Okay, so let's look at this one. Negative 6 is greater than or equal to n minus 5. Okay, so what do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to plus 5 on both sides, just like my equations. you want to, do you see how the number comes first? If that's confusing to you, you can flip it, and you can say n. Do you see how I just flipped everything? You have to flip the sign too. So if you'd rather have n is less than or equal to -1, it's easier to read that way when sometimes your variable is first. And I know when Mr. Kneisel teaches inequalities, he always wants the variable first. So if you come up to one that looks like this, if you want to, just flip it all around, and then your variable's first, and it makes it easier to understand. N is less than or equal to -1. So what are some things that n could be? If n is less than or equal to -1, Connor? Yeah, could be -1. What else could it be? Cadence? -2, because it's less than -1, right? What else? -5. -5 bazillion, yeah. -100. If I put that in for n, guess what? It's going to make that inequality true up there. So let's just pick one, shall we? Let's put -1 in there. And then it looks like this. Okay, so let's see if that's true. I got to keep change here. Guess what? Is that true? If I would put -2 in there, it would look like this. There we go. Is 6 greater than or equal to -7? It's greater than, right? Okay. So did you see what your solution set is? Your solution set is all your possible answers. So anything from -1 and lower is your solution set. Okay. How are we doing so far? Good, right? All right, let's try this one. Let's try this one. A plus a half is less than 2. A plus a half is less than 2. So I'm going to minus a half. I think I know how to do. Minus a half here. A is less than 1. Is that what you guys got? A is less than 1.5. What are some things that A could be? 1, half, -2, 0, 2/3. See a solution set? Anything less than 1.5 will make this true. Okay. Catching how this is going? Not too hard, right? It's the exact same thing as equation. Now let me show you how to graph them. That's the next step to this. So when you graph, we're going to use dots. Okay? And certain dots mean certain things. The dot that's colored in means these two signs. The dot that's open means those two signs. You maybe did. So the closed dot means the greater than or less than or equal to, and the open one just means greater than or less than. And the way I remember it, I remember that this one has one more mark on it, so then this has to be colored in. That's how I remember it. This one has more marks on it, more lines, so this one has to be colored in. That's how I remember it. Yep, that's right. That's how I remember, so make sure you find a way to remember. All right, got this down? Okay, let me show you how this works. So first of all, they're going to give you an inequality, and we got to solve that inequality. Okay, so to solve it, we're going to do it just like we did with equations like we did before. 8 is greater than 0. So in your head, what are some things h can be? Could be 1, could be 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Yep. Now what we're going to do is we're going to graph the solution set. You might be like, what does that mean? So the first thing I like to do is I make a number line. You actually graph inequalities on a number line. So it's pretty simple. It's not like you have to make a coordinate plane, go up and over. It doesn't work that way. Just inequalities are just done on a number line. So when I do this, I find the number that I have in here, and that's the first thing I put in the middle. Okay? Because I have to have that number on my number line. It has to be on there. 1, 2, 3. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. You don't have to go on forever. A few numbers is fine. So then the next thing I do is I say, okay, what kind of dot am I going to have to use on this number line? Because what's my sign here? Is it going to be open or closed? It's going to be an open dot. So over the top of 0, I'm going to put an open dot. Okay. And then you told me what were some things that h could be? Anything greater than 0, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. So then what do I do? On this dot, I take it and I make an arrow. That tells me what my solution set can be. Okay. So when you have an open dot, that means it does not include 0 because it's not equal to, right? If I had a closed dot, it would say 0 and up, but I don't have a closed dot because I don't have an and equal sign. Okay, so that's why it's an open dot, is because it does not include 0. You probably did, yep. Okay. Correct. Yep, and I would make sure my 3's in the middle of my number line, is what I would do. Very good. Correct. I always make sure that my number here is in the middle of my number line down there. So then I know I have some examples of what that X or what H can be. Pretty simple, right? It's actually kind of fun. Let's do another one. Let's do another one. X minus 6 is less than or equal to 4. So go ahead and solve your inequality or your equation, whatever. Plus 6. Okay, so when you start making your number line, I would put 10 in the middle. Then make sure you got what open or closed dot over the top of 10. What's supposed to be closed, right? Because it includes 10. It's something or equal to 10. But if x is less than or equal to 10, what can x be? 9, 8, 7, 6. That's what yours should look like. A better arrow than that. What? The other way. From last time? Yep. The way from last time. Which way it goes? Well, you got to say to yourself, if x is less than 10, what are some things s can be? If x is less than 10, well, 9, 8, 7, 6, those are all less than 10, right? That's the way your arrow goes on your number line, towards those numbers. Should we give it one more shot? You want to do one by yourself? Let's do one by yourself. I'll make it up. Let's do x plus 3 is greater than or equal to 7. far, so good? Closed or open dot? Closed, because it includes 4. But if it's greater than 4, which way is my arrow going to go? Towards which numbers? Don't tell me this way or that way. Towards which numbers? 5, 6, 7. Yep. That's what yours should look like. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay, I have a few more things I need to show you. And another thing they're going to do today is they're going to give you a sentence. And it might look like this. A number plus 2 is greater than 9. You've got to write the inequality out. What does it mean? So a number is usually what? X plus 2 is greater than, right, 9. You're going to have to write it out, and then you're going to have to solve it. Okay, so be prepared for that. And that's why when you wrote down those signs, I gave you greater than, more than, less than. Right. Right. Yep. Different signs? Well, that's why you got your notebook. That's why I had you write those in there. Yep, use your notebook all the time. Okay. There's also going to be a few story problems, and I think one of the story problems is something like this. An elevator can hold no more than 20 people. Okay? So, an elevator can hold no more than 20 people. So first of all, X, because we need to know how many people, we aren't sure. And then I would put 20 on the other side. Then your job is to figure out what sign is in there. We can hold no more than 20 people. Can it hold 20 people? But, so it's got to be equal to, but what sign then, Jacob? Less than. X can be less than or equal to 20. So make sure you're careful with some of those story problems. Okay, because they're going to give you some hints. The first thing I would do is I would put a variable, and I would put whatever number they have in there. And then I would think to myself, okay, no more than 20 people. Can it hold 20 people? Well, yes. So then it's got to be equal to. But then you got to think of what the other part of your sign needs to be. Okay? Any questions? I think there's another one on there that says like the capacity of a restaurant is less than 200 people. So, X, 200. If it's less than 200 people, can it hold 200? If it's less than 200, it's not equal to. So it's less than 200, and even this is a really good indicator. Is less than. Okay. It might say is no more than 200, then it would be equal to. Okay. So watch your sign, or watch your wording, and even in there, if you look at what I had you write down, it'll give you some ideas of what the wording is for that sign, okay? So look at your signs in your notebook. That would be a good help. What do you guys think? Not too hard, is it? It's actually kind of fun, because you already know how to solve equations. That takes half the stress away. You just have to know your signs and if it's open or closed out.